Examine the watches of the next 3 people you pass on the street. There's a near certainty that at least one of them is wearing a highly specialised piece of underwater life support equipment. They aren't commercial divers and they're not marine biologists. They're commuting to the office. This is a masterclass in industrial subversion. In 2026, the modern watch industry has achieved this strange victory. They have convinced the global consumer that a tool engineered to survive the crushing pressure of the deep sea is a baseline requirement for a Monday morning boardroom presentation. But how did a rugged piece of 1950s naval military gear mutate into the ultimate universal signifier of corporate prestige? The answer lies in a highly calculated visual exploit. Welcome to Bakewell, where we decode the hidden architecture of fashion and behaviour. For over a century, the luxury timepiece existed to signal delicate, untouchable wealth. The elite wore ultra-thin and fragile gold dress watches, objects designed exclusively to show you didn't perform manual labour. But in 2026, that traditional dynamic has completely fractured. Between the flood of terrifyingly precise 3D scanned replicas and a cultural shift away from ostentatious displays, looking fragile and rich now carries a negative social currency. According to recent 2026 consumer indices, classic dress watch categories have stalled. In their place, the industrial tool aesthetic now claims over 70% of the luxury market share. Why? Because a diamond-encrusted watch face is just an expensive target, but a heavy steel watch designed for tactical operations? That projects an entirely different asset: absolute resilience. We've traded the inherited wealth aesthetic for the high-value operator look. Let's isolate the design geometry. Take the Rolex Submariner, one of the most replicated blueprints in human history. Every line on this object was drawn in 1953 to solve a fatal engineering problem: how to keep a military diver from suffocating in pitch-black freezing water. The oversized geometric dial markers were designed for raw visibility. The stark black and white contrast was an emergency requirement. The heavy notched rotating ring around the glass was a manual countdown timer for oxygen reserves. But here is the architectural phenomenon. When transferred to dry land, this uncompromised functionality tricks the human brain. The extreme contrast creates an immediate visual magnet that captures the eye from across the room. By refusing to chase fashion trends, Rolex built an aesthetic so fundamentally balanced it became immortal. But why are modern consumers so uniquely obsessed with this rugged aesthetic right now? Because we are navigating an era of profound institutional volatility. When the macro environment feels chaotic and unpredictable, human subconsciousness desperately hunts for symbols of stability. Strapping a machine block of anti-corrosive steel to your arm isn't an artistic style choice, it's a psychological anchor. It's the monetization of hypervigilance. Watch houses are no longer selling heritage, they are weaponizing our collective desire for permanence. If an object on your wrist can withstand 1,000 feet of oceanic pressure, the primitive mind internalizes a false sense of control over the turbulent economy. You are being sold a physical manifestation of survival. There is a final highly strategic layer to this design dominance, rooted in a legal loophole. Because the Submariner's layout was originally classified as a utilitarian military instrument, rather than as an artistic sculpture, its structural shape could not be fully protected by long-term design trademarks. When those initial patents expired decades ago, it sparked an industry-wide cloning epidemic. Today, nearly every watch manufacturer on the planet, from legacy Swiss competitors to $50 Japanese quartz micro brands, mass produces a legal clone of this exact 1953 silhouette. This widespread imitation has created a unique optical cheat code. By wearing this specific geometric outline, you instantly signal alignment with an elite global in-group. It has become a universal visual shorthand for competence that completely transcends social class. So the next time you find yourself browsing a timepiece featuring a heavy helium escape valve and an oceanic depth rating you'll only ever expose to a desk lamp, ask yourself the hard question: am I investing in a high performance instrument, or am I buying armour for my ego? The market is betting millions that your urge to project calculated, indestructible capability is vastly more powerful than your actual need to track the hours. And based on the staggering multi-billion-dollar dominance of the sports watch sector this year, they have won the bet. You are paying a premium to wear a piece of hardware optimised for an emergency that will likely never arrive. Make sure to follow for more fashion analysis, and we'll see you in the next video.